Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John Supporters for the ninth. Look at that bar. Oh, that was fantastic. Peace on earth. No, now we got the whole. Do you trust what you hear? Do you have any faith in what's being reported versus this, that, and the other? It's ridiculous out there, but that doesn't change the fact that we can play the signals that come. The market peaked out and then kind of faded from there, and we're going to get continuation of that fade. This whole nonsense with the ceasefires and bull. You could just ignore all that stuff. Um, Clearly what we have is green leading and orange below it. That is still bullish. It's not going to change anything. Interestingly enough, the pivot with the MBI white, we could be at the end of the peak run. So that 50% is going to be critical, and we're coming back to it. So that's just a matter of how long will it take before you get there. So that's back down to 67.23. We're looking from an NQ standpoint, likewise, the orange way below. And you don't have a steel reset at all, meaning that this has popped above, come back down. That's short-term weakness. So you just have to deal with that. Right now, this is news related, um, and it's going to shift. Of course, you get this debate on what the 10-point plan is, whose 10-point plan. He's claiming CNN and all these others are making up fake lists. You, who can you believe? And the point is that the whole point that Trump has always done is, keep things obscure and obfuscate until you actually have a written deal. The Iranians, the issue is that it's going to look like the ceasefire is always being broken because they decentralize their entire government. So all these rogue actors can at any point start firing drones if they don't like the idea of the direction of the supposed peace plan. And that is really going to be the stumbling block that's going to occur because there's no way to control these factions now. And that's the whole point of it. Anyone with a $500,000, $2,000 drone can wreak havoc and create all sorts of mayhem. And is the Israelis, are they really interested in a ceasefire? Doesn't seem so. I mean, that was pretty extensive bombing they did in Lebanon. So, yeah, Trump's in a situation where he's got people that aren't necessarily wanting peace at all. The Iranians aren't really looking for peace, neither are the Israelis. So, yeah. But at the end of the day, this is what you got, oil. So you're still at 95. Now, fine, the peace deal backs you off the precipice, but and it does open up the opportunity for any failure in negotiations. You can do a lot of bombing and then come up with a new peace plan that's broken over the weekend, and then by the time futures open up on Sunday night to have a new peace plan. So who knows? Now, yes, fine. You bombed a bunch of stuff in Iran. They can always rebuild it. It's just going to take time. So you bought some time. But at the end of the day, that time has come at a cost. And this is the reality. It's come at a cost from $60 a barrel to $95 a barrel. And that is the cost of the war. Don't care what you're spending on the military. I've never understood this anyway. You have the same number of people in the military. You're still paying their salary. It was already budgeted for. There's no extra cost there. You want to replace weapons that you use? Fine. You were going to do it anyway because they have a shelf life. So what do you really say? It really becomes stupid talk when they talk about all this extra costs. It's like you already have the stuff. You're not making some new massive orders. You already had the orders in place for everything else that was going to be replaced anyway. Strange stuff. Um, anyway, from a euro standpoint, yeah, they're happy. Though it is interesting because the scuttlebutt is that the U.S. may remove or move troops around within Europe from some of the least helpful NATO allies, and that, from a geopolitical standpoint, is going to put a lot of pressure on the EU because you'd be surprised at how having a base with soldiers really does well for your economy locally because guess what? They spend money. It's a form of illegal immigration, but legally done. And, these soldiers that are, well, like in Italy, and, Germany, and that, it's a substantial impact to those areas. Now, from a gold, backed off quite a bit. Uh, Still, the long-term prospect for gold is still to the upside. You're always going to get these ups and downs with it. It's in a weak spot right now, reading-wise. But this inflation is going to be significant because even with a 2-week open of the strait, you're going to get enough supplies through there that are going to just suspend or almost fill up the areas that have already been, squeezed to dryness. Now, will they get enough through? We don't even know. I mean, things are pretty much halted at this particular point. And, this could be also from an Iranian strategy, keep claiming that Israel is violating it so that you can keep stalling it. Because the longer this goes on, the worse it is from a coalition standpoint of the U.S. And the Iranians get this. They just have to survive. That's a win for them. You're going to blow up a bunch of stuff. The only advantage they have is that they don't die. So as long as they think they're secure as the leaders in making these decisions, they really don't care what happens in the country. It's not going to be a big deal to them. Now, the fact that they've been using Bitcoin and demanding cryptocurrencies for their fee to go through the strait, that has been a strong support for Bitcoin. And, you can see it's bullish with the green rising in that. And, despite the short cover in there, that's what you got as a short cover rally within it. So the selling pressure has been squashed, so to speak. Yeah, that pretty much tells the whole story. Yeah, and what's interesting about it was when you look at this intraday, where we had the positive extremes, and it's probably better if I just go to the 5,000 tick chart right here. So you ended up with the start of the positive extremes that went through here, and these guys are so beautiful. Look at that. They used the one bar comeback, filled it, and then continued. So that really left you with right here. In fact, let me just draw a line on there because this becomes your de facto um, positive extreme fill. Got to come right up to there. So this is already filled. How beautiful is that? I mean, talk about really handling your business well, and then boom, lo and behold, you're going to come back down to that. Just shy of that was the turn back. Now, of course, we're probably going to see that a little bit later on as we move across here. Um, Not quite down to it yet. Where do I have to go? 67 was it? Let's get that back on here. Exactly 67, 69 range. So we're just a bit above it at this particular stage right now, live. 30 points to go to get to it, filling it completely. So that would mean that, any move that takes place is congruent with, having been retraced already. And then, so from an algo standpoint, that's pretty clean. And it was really clean from short standpoints, turnarounds. We're still negotiating the terms on that, and actually with my new program, you can see it a little bit clearer when we get into these sell markers. Becomes pretty straightforward in the transition to the buy setup. Two scenarios there: the dips below the 18, which is what these magenta represent, the violet color, and then the conversion of orange below red, red over at the depressed level. And you can see right now we've been in this nice downturn, beautifully speaking. You can see where the only green setup is the magenta moving back over. In this particular case, it's interesting because it's tied to both the white over red in the bearish standpoint, particularly with the declining. It can be either orange or yellow. If I turn the yellow on, it's the same as the orange line. It's just a little bit of a differential. The orange is a smoothed version of the yellow, so you don't get a bunch of the bouncing up and down. But it gives you a relative tie-in. You can see exactly where the market was about to lose its strength and momentum, and boom, once you start to cross over, you get that strong move where MBI white leads red, and then particularly when it leads magenta, yeah, you're pretty much set at that particular point. It's just a matter of letting it do its business. And that corresponds with the decay that you see in the DOC red here, even though it was moving. It's almost coming back to the exact same spot. So at that point, once that green dips below, yeah, you begin to start saying, okay, I could be at the end of my run here from a downside move. Just your stop and prepare for the flip. And that's exactly what you begin to see once we go into these levels. It's not going to change until you get what we look for is like this case where you have steel crossing the orange. And it's where those areas take place, depending on who's in the lead and where you are with cyan. So in this case, steel dipping below the orange, negative, boom, and then turn around coming back with the green setup, orange dipping back underneath. You get a whole new long run going through there. Um, yeah, and it just keeps repeating that cycle, but it flips based on uh, which area is in control of the DOC, and that's been the programming adjust to that to make it easier because it can be difficult to follow all the different lines. So that's the whole point of having the paint bar do it for you, and then also having it, execute various types of trades. And I'm separating each of those as well so that you can see the win rate percentage profitability for each of them. Um, because at the 5K level, doing, you know, 6, 8 point wins at a time with a, 4 to 6 point loss, you're already in a position where if you're winning, more than 50% of those, you're already in a positive profit factor, but you'll be able to do a lot of those trades within a given day at a 5K chart, versus a 50K, which is going to be much slower and fewer. So then it just becomes a time differential. And then you start trading, as I've always talked about, trading time, which is not different really than when they talk about, people who dollar cost average where they're just buying like weekly, regardless of what the market is, that similar kind of construct. So that's just a little bit blind as opposed to we don't need to be blind. We can see exactly what's going on. And it's very clear. In this particular case, we're going to continue to break new lows for a little bit longer. And we would expect that once that low is taken out, you're going to move at least the gap between the range of the 23%. So you can literally go from the 0 to the 23%, look at the gap, and in this particular case, it's at least 8 point move. So you're going to break that at least 8 points to the south side of it. So yeah, little things like that makes it so much easier. Anyway, have a good one. Trade well. Anything relevant, I will put it on the team chat. Have a good one.